Hello, beautiful viewers. I thank you eternally for your patience. Now the long-awaited night guide is here in its full presentation. Hello, hello. What'd you think of the intro? I hope you liked it. I did it for extra flair, but I digress. We're now going to be going over the characters' kits, cooldowns, and effect durations while explaining what effects there are. And don't forget to check timestamps. I will be timestamping everything so you can find the section that interests you with ease. Ah yes, Knight and his tactical foresight. Okay, so for starters, the Knight's tactical foresight has two phases. Phase 1 is the first prediction you make using your tactical foresight, aka the helmet. And once you make your first prediction, you're given a 4-second window to make a second prediction, which is also the second phase of tactical foresight. You can only make 2 predictions per tactical foresight, and you can only make a stalemate prediction when it's your second phase of tactical foresight. Or, in other words, when it's your second prediction. Oh, and don't forget that if you miss the 4-second window to make a second prediction, you'll be left unable to make a second prediction for the rest of Tactical Foresight's duration. So it's important to remember that 4-second window and to keep an eye on your helmet icon as it shows you a timer for how long a window you've got left. Stalling out the second prediction can be useful in certain circumstances that we'll cover in a moment. But regardless, always make a second prediction. Otherwise, you're limiting and cutting your abilities effectively in half. So you can use Tactical Foresight up to 3 times per match. It says the cooldown is 14 seconds. Chivalrous Sympathy, this is a thing some people get confused by a little bit. So Chivalrous Sympathy, you get the prompt to use Chivalrous Sympathy, which is a ranged rescue that applies a effect that protects you and the rescued person off chair for the next 8 seconds, making it so the next instance of damage either of you take is reduced by a chip. So if you take chip damage, you take 0 damage, and if you take a regular hit, it only deals chip damage worth. Basically, the only way to get Chivalrous Sympathy to work is if you're in front of the chair. Hi, editor here. This is wrong. All you need to get the Chivalrous Sympathy prompt is just for you to be within line of sight. You can use it from behind the chair, you can use it from the chair from the side, you can use it from the front. All that matters is that you have line of sight and there's no low obstacles in the way. Just want to make a correction. You cannot do it through walls, so remember those things. And the first time you use Chivalrous Sympathy, you and your teammate will gain an 8-second buff to where they'll be able to where the next instance of damage they take is reduced by a chip, and it lingers for 8 seconds after the chair rescue. It's a really good rebound tool to help your teammates get to someplace safe while being able to have the reassurance that they can take a hit. And then you can use Chivalrous Sympathy onward. Only thing that's different is just that you don't get that protection for the future instances that you use this rescue ability. It's only with the first time that you use it that you get the protection. Now, Knight doesn't have any vaulting buffs or debuffs. He doesn't have any healing buffs or healing debuffs. The only debuff Knight has is a 15% decoding debuff, which if we look at the stats, the only difference that makes is like a 14-second difference in decode time, which is pretty substantial. So if you have a Knight on your team and you want to be rescued, try to aim for like a 90-second kite if you can help it. Otherwise, 80 is fine. Your teammates can take over his cipher. Now, before we go into the kiting section, one thing I need to talk about Tactical Foresight, since we've covered everything else, are his 3 predictions. There's attack, ability, and stalemate. Attack and ability are your options for your first prediction, and then attack, ability, stalemate are your options for your second prediction. An attack prediction just makes it so that if the hunter tries attacking, attack will be cancelled and the hunter will be forced to inspect their weapon, which is basically a stun. Varies depending on how many survivors are around the Knight. And then there's the ability block. It's the same thing, but for abilities. So if the hunter tries using an ability with an ability prediction, their ability will be canceled, and on top of them being put on a 6-second forced cooldown. And again, this duration also varies depending on how many people are around the knight, because think of knight more of like antiquarian, where the more people that are huddled together with the knight, the weaker his ability is, because the effects of his predictions become weaker, on top of the duration of his prediction also becoming shorter. So remember that. And then the stalemate prediction is just that, it's basically just if the hunter decides to do nothing and you make a stalemate prediction, you get a 2-second speed boost on top of every other prediction that you get right. And then you also get a 4-second protection shield that reduces the damage you would take by a chip. It's basically the same protection as Chivalrous Sympathy, but it just lasts for 4 seconds and you get a 2-second speed boost on top of it. Just, you know, the same way you would if you got any other prediction right. Oh, and before I forget, this is the range of a knight's ability, in case you were curious to have it visualized. This is 13 meters, by the way. This is 13 meter range. Pretty freaking far. And finally, but not least, before we transition to how to kite with knight, the order in which you make your predictions are extremely important, because if you do an attack prediction, then an ability prediction, the hunter could theoretically make a blink, which would be an ability, ignoring the first attack prediction, and then swing, which would ignore the second prediction, which is ability. So pay attention to the order in which you make your predictions. They do affect what the hunter is capable of doing in order to counterplay you. Now here comes the most fun part about knight, and that's his kiting. Just to keep things simple and comprehensible and not make this video 2 hours long, I'm just going to be giving general tips of how to use knight in a kiting sense. And then later on, when we go against specific hunters, I'll give you more specific advice. But just for this segment, I'm going to give you simple, brief, general tips for how to use knight when generally kiting. Now, you might be wondering or asking, what are some things a knight needs to consider when kiting? Good thing you asked. For me, I would say the things a knight needs to consider when kiting against the hunter are 3 things. The hunter's cooldowns or ability charges, the hunter's position relative to his, and the hunter's playstyle. Now, let's try to break these things and what they mean. Hunter ability charges or cooldowns, what I mean by that is by those 2 things give you a reference of time knowing the hunter cannot use an ability to counteract your attack predictions. So, for example, let's say Bloody Queen just used her mirror and it's now on its 15-second cooldown. You can now use your attack predictions and know for a fact that the Bloody Queen cannot use her mirrors or use any ability to counteract those attack predictions. That is what I mean by hunter cooldowns. Now, you might be wondering about the other half of what I said. Ability charges. Think of a hunter like Nightwatch. His first ability, although has a cooldown, his seconds do not. So his Wind Walk and his Wind Dash do not have cooldowns, and he can use them as freely as he wants for as long as he has wind charges. However, you can estimate and roughly know when he has wind charges because he makes it very obvious when he's getting them back, because he does like either the wind slow or the wind pull, and you know that he can do that every 14 seconds. So although his second abilities don't have a cooldown, you can directly use against him. You know when he's getting those wind charges back, so you still have a time frame that you can work with. Now, the second thing to break down, the hunter's position relative to the knight. What does this mean? The hunter's position relative to a knight gives you an idea of what the hunter's next move will be. So think of it like this. If you're far and not within melee range, hunters will generally use their abilities to do damage from afar or to help catch back up. Like in this clip, the hunter was falling behind and wanted to use their ability to catch up, but because I anticipated this, I was able to block it and gain even more distance.
God. I'm not even near you. Why are you getting skill?
I mean, you have a catch-up skill.
Couldn't have summed it better, Alonzo. That's his name, by the way, in case you were curious. Also, I used this clip because I thought it was funny. Sorry, Zeus. What do you do when the hunter is getting close enough to hit you? Generally, you do attack prediction first and then do a prediction stall to see what they do. If you really want to ensure the hunter cannot smack you, you can do double attack prediction, almost guaranteeing that you'll be untouchable for the rest of the duration of prediction phase. If you want more hunter specific advice, feel free to jump towards the hunter tier list section, as I give more specific tips there. Now here comes the third part about things to consider when kiting with Knight. The Hunter's playstyle. This is where Knight becomes super nuanced and tricky to use at times. The Hunter's playstyle is the most vital part of being able to play Knight effectively, as it directly affects whether or not your predictions will work. So getting to recognize your Hunter's pattern against predictions easily tilts things in your favors. Like for example, my friend Zeus here has a habit of swinging against the first prediction but using his ability in the second. So double ability predictions work really well against him. And he also has the pattern of never letting the prediction phase run out. So stalemates against him almost never work. And the final thing I should mention before transitioning to his rescuing segment is prediction stalling. What might be prediction stalling, you might ask, since I did bring that up earlier. Prediction stalling is the action of purposely waiting until the last second to make your second prediction. And why is this useful? It's useful to occasionally prediction stall as it allows you to see whether or not the hunter has done anything towards your first prediction. And if they haven't, it'll tell you that the hunter is most likely interested in waiting out your prediction phase, allowing you to easily make a stalemate prediction and win. Another use of prediction stalling is waiting to see if your first prediction fails, and if it does, you can immediately follow up with another of the same prediction. And the final use of prediction stalling I can think of would be waiting to see if your first prediction succeeds, giving you a good chance of making a different second prediction and succeeding as well. And last but not least, I promise this time, there are two different types of a prediction, a defensive and an aggressive prediction. A defensive prediction is reacting to an ability used and making a prediction to prevent an injury. Like in this clip, I had the opera dashing towards me, and to secure I could get the pallet throw, I made an attack prediction, thus reacting and being defensive about my prediction. An aggressive prediction would be running into the hunter alongside making a prediction, all to allow yourself to force an interaction such as vaulting and pallet throwing. So basically just look at the previous clip. That's basically a prime example of an aggressive prediction. Okay, the easier section, Knight's Rescue. Rescuing with Knight is the most formulaic part of playing him, as hunters are reliant on their ability to prevent rescues. The general formula with Knight and with rescuing in general is survivor goes down, you leave Cypher to move in, get the chair, let your teammates sit on the chair for a little bit, and then once their timer is like 30% and above and 80% and above if it's their second chair, you move into rescue and get back out without getting terror shocked or double hit. And then here comes the question, when do I use Chivalrous Sympathy? Well, I'd say you use Chivalrous Sympathy in these situations. A, if the person's on their first chair, and they did a 3-cipher kite. That way, using Chivalrous on them wouldn't hurt, as it gives them a chance of a rebound and your teammates can prioritize decoding the final 2 ciphers. B, you use it when your teammate's on second chair, as it provides them protection that they can use for a rebound kite, or at the very least just buy extra time. And finally, you use Chivalrous Sympathy when you're in a situation where you're about to be hit after the rescue. So using Chivalrous Sympathy would not only prevent the double down, but also allow you to get away. And for the reason I generally don't recommend using Chivalrous on first chair rescue is because Knights for the most part bring Tide Turner. So you save your Chivalrous for the second chair rescue, as it buys your teammates extra times that Tide Turner wouldn't be able to, since it should have been used already on the first chair rescue. Because rescuing isn't always about getting the person off chair, a rebound kite, but it's also buying your teammates enough time on ciphers to decode and finish them. Yes, we're making a section on how Knight supports, since he does have support capabilities. Now, supporting with Knight is trickier than you may think, as timing when to do his predictions aren't always obvious, but nonetheless, I'm going to show you examples of Knight support and give you telltale signs I use to know when to make a prediction. Entomologist is being harassed by the ant with their cats. I figured I could move in and do an attack prediction to undo the hit that she could have gotten on Psychologist. I should have made a stalemate prediction here, but I didn't expect her to wait it out, so I got hit, but I got the rescue nonetheless, and I kept Entomologist from being hit. Now, for those who are wondering how I knew when to make that prediction, here's the logic and thought process behind it. The Anne is extremely focused on the entomologist, so chances are she hasn't seen me, so making a quick attack prediction right before she swings is guaranteed to work, which is why I waited for her to leap to the ento and then not a moment later make an attack prediction, because again the Anne is hard focused on entomologist and she leaped towards her believing she'll get the hit. Oh, and waiting for the Anne to leap before making an attack prediction further reduces the odds of the Anne outplaying the attack prediction. And in this clip, I'm hovering around the Anne, waiting for her to use an ability since Knight can do this one particular thing against Anne. Yep, he can cancel out her cats basically for free. All you gotta do is make an ability prediction, and no matter what the Anne does, either the cats will disappear because splitting them counts as an ability, or she swings and the cats overshoot past the novelist big time. And for those wondering why I made an attack prediction, it's because her abilities are currently blocked as I got the ability prediction right, and making a stalemate prediction when supporting someone's kite is basically pointless, so making an attack prediction here either gives the novelist a window of time where the Anne cannot attack, or the Anne attacks and it gets cancelled and she gets put under a stun. Basically, all it comes down to when supporting with Knight is just preventing and or blocking the hunter from performing something they need to do. Like in this clip, the Anne is using her cats to stop the entomologist from looping, so I block it and allow Ento to kite in peace. Another example is like blocking Wu Chang's TP when he's charging up his umbrella to teleport to someone. All Knight's support is again, preventing what the hunter needs to do in order to get to your teammate. And attack predictions work wonderfully for this too. It's just attack predictions are something you use during a moment where your teammate is stunned or vulnerable to the hunter's attack after the hunter used their abilities and whatnot. Now, I originally intended for this to be like a section where I'd give hunter specific tips for both rescuing and kiting, but I'm on a time crunch and I'm sorry that I didn't fulfill my promise as I said I would, but in return, I instead give you a hunter tier list with categories and explaining what each category means. And on top of that, I want to get this video out before Hullabaloo comes out so that I can just do back-to-back content with Hullabaloo as he's my main interest at the moment because I love Knight, but Hullabaloo is awesome and I've never been excited for another hunter like this in a long while, so I'm kind of rushing this a bit. However, if you guys are interested to see a video where I give specific kiting tips, like specific kiting tips and rescuing tips, please let me know. I want to see how much interest there is, because if I were to commit to making a video like that, it would take probably it would take a lot of effort and time. So please tell me if you're interested, and if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, comment them down below in the comment below. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot. It's like 3 in the morning. I'm really tired, but yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. A very own tier list, just to quickly categorize the hunters while saving me a headache and crunching down on the time for the video. The You're Fucked category belongs to the one and only Percy. Percy belongs here as his abilities can be used outside of Knight's ranged, alongside denying Knight's chivalrous sympathy completely, holding the crown as the only hunter who can do so. The next tier is Ability Spam Central. Hunters in this category can spam their ability or have low cooldowns, therefore attack predictions are weaker against these hunters. However, ability predictions are more effective against them. Mid cooldown hunters are a mixture of the tier below and above, featuring a cooldown that's long enough to not be considered spammable. Attack and ability predictions are about the same level of effectiveness against these hunters in this specific tier. Long ass cooldowns tier. Hunters in this tier suffer through long cooldowns, who would have guessed, meaning spamming attack predictions against these hunters generally give them a hard time since they cannot spam ability. And then we have the They're Fucked tier, meaning hunters in this tier get absolutely demolished by Knight since ability predictions absolutely neuter them, alongside the fact that you can make an ability prediction against them and no matter what happens, you'll always come out on top. And the last 2 tiers are, well, self-explanatory. Oh, and before anybody says anything, I put Feaster in Ability Spam Central because I just realized that, Feaster can kind of spam his abilities, so yeah. Now to quickly wrap things up, as this is getting towards the end of the video, here is the persona webs I run for Knight. The rule of thumb with Knight is that if you are the weakest kiter in your team, or if there's a secondary rescuer, then running Flywheel or Broken Windows with Knight is a-okay. And then if you are the sole rescuer in your entire team, run Tideturner. And that's it. That's all there is for persona builds. Knight doesn't really have much flexibility or crazy wacky persona builds you can go for. It's just either you run Broken or it's either you run Broken and Flywheel because there's a secondary rescuer, or you run Tide because you're the sole rescuer. The sub traits is kind of up to personal preference. So now, hello, hi, and welcome. This is the end of the video. I'm so happy you made it all the way through. I'm very proud of you. I hope you liked the video. It is a little underbaked in terms of what I delivered, and I'm sorry I didn't deliver everything that I said I would in this video, like the hunter specific tips. I've been working on this for the past 2.5 weeks. The longest parts of this have been mainly gathering footage and then kind of figuring out a format as for what to do on this video, because in the background I've been making a script and writing mostly just ideas and thoughts, and then how to propose them on a document online. So I've just been doing that for the past 2.5 weeks. So I put a lot of effort and time into this, so I really hope you enjoyed it. I'm recording this at like 3 in the morning. I'm really tired, but I want to get this finished before Hullabaloo launches, but I digress. I'm happy you made it all the way through. I really hope you found this guide helpful at the very least, and if you still want more tips and advice against, specific hunters and specific situations, please let me know that you're interested, and I will consider putting it as something for me to do later down the line. Because right now I want to release this guide while Knight is still relatively relevant, and then also before Hullabaloo comes out. But yeah, I'm sorry for kind of delivering something that's a little underbaked. I just kind of wanted to rush the end of this so it would be out by the time Hullabaloo comes out, and I can start doing content on him next, because I'm really happy and excited for Hullabaloo, and I hope you are too. But yeah, I guess I will see you next time, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. And don't forget, if you have any questions or specific scenarios you want me to give feedback on, just tell me in the comments below. Okay, now bye.